In this video, I read out some of my favorite scary Reddit stories, and if you want to help support me, I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. Also, special thanks to our thumbnail artist Blank P. Make sure to support them with the credits left in the description. But, without further ado, enjoy this video. This is a story from the r/ask Reddit. The original question was, serious, what is the creepiest thing that has ever actually happened to you? And user/bingbong1234 answered with this. This was my favorite ever Reddit story that I've ever heard whenever I think of like horror stories. This is my absolute favorite. I've been waiting a long time to tell Reddit the full story of the Whistler. This story requires many details, but it's unexplainable, creepy, and 100% true. I also have video evidence. When I was about 8 years old, I was taking my dog for a walk through the neighborhood with my mum. It was maybe 11 p.m. We lived next to a swamp/woods area in the edge of our neighborhood in Lansing, Michigan. I remember it was being very silent and slightly windy. From down the swamp, we heard somebody whistling at us. It sounded sort of like a bird, but each whistle was different. Enough where the lack of consistency made it human-like. The whistle sounded higher than lower. I can't really describe it. My mum had a concerned, slightly terrified look on her face and grabbed my hand and said that we should go inside quickly. I didn't understand because I was too young, but seeing my mum freak out made me freak out too. After a while though, I kind of forgot about it. 2 years later, I was taking my dogs out again, late at night. There was a large bush that could easily obscure a person behind it, just next to the front door. As I was finishing the walk, the whistling noise started again. Same pitches, same inconsistent human-like tones. As soon as I heard it, a chill went down my spine, as I remembered exactly the feeling of seeing my mum looking terrified, looking down into the swamp at something I couldn't see. Maybe she couldn't see either. I ran inside as fast as possible. Years went by, and I thought about it less and less. I told only a handful of people, and eventually, it slipped my mind. Fast forward to last summer. I'm 24, started dating my girl Sarah. We moved out to South Dakota for work. For Independence Day, we decided to go to the pier, SD, and watch the fireworks along the bank of the Missouri River. There was a free camping spot behind a hospital where you could pitch your tent, hang out, and see the fireworks up the river. We were near the end of the campground, and there were very few people around us. As it was getting dark, the fireworks began. They were pretty far away, so the illumination they brought was very little. Thus, we had to sit right at the edge of the river to be able to see them. A huge thunderhead was moving in, and a storm was imminent. So the air seemed electric, and the wind was picking up. The atmosphere was eerie, to say the least. The police boats herded all the other boats off of the river, and had left our area to do that elsewhere. Most of the other campers walked up the river to have a better view of the fireworks, but Sarah and I stayed back, and were drinking PBR tall boys and kicking it. Suddenly, we heard the sound of a paddle, methodically dipping it into the water. We saw a figure steering a canoe about 20 meters offshore. Sarah decided to go and get more beers from the car, leaving me alone to stare at this mystery person. And then, of course, they whistled at me. My entire body was frozen and covered in goosebumps. It was the exact same whistle from my childhood, more than a decade earlier. I looked at the figure, but it was much too dark to discern who it could be. They were wearing a hat. When they were perpendicular to the shore from me, they stopped paddling, turned the canoe to face directly at me, and whistled right at me. I was so frightened I stood up and shouted at them, "Who are you?" They didn't say anything, just whistled a couple more times, turned the canoe 180 degrees, and paddled outside. I'm a videographer, so I already had my camera by my side and was taking the video of the fireworks. As soon as the canoe was almost out of sight, I grabbed my camera and got a shot of them whistling as they went away. When Sarah came back from getting beers, she was very confused as to why I was freaked out. When I explained, she was freaked out a bit too. I was convinced we would both be murdered that night. How did the whistling person follow me after 14 years? All the way to South Dakota? Was it coincidence? Why was it the same whistling noise? Who was the person? Where did they go? So many questions still unanswered. To this day, I'm more afraid of being outside in the dark where I might hear that whistling again. And the great part of the story, which I love, is the fact that it has a lovely video attached. It's incredible. They just have a lovely old video attached. But I don't know if you can even get an actual shot but they turned the camera to what I imagine is where the person is. But can you still hear it? God, that's kind of chilling, dude. Wait, is that them there? Is that the person? If they're over there, how's the whistling still that loud though? Anyways, so this is another one from /Ask Reddit with the question, what's your best true spooky story? And this comes from the user Badly Drawn. Okay, so this was probably 15-ish years ago now. When I was in high school, my group of friends used to spend a lot of time at a particular friend's house because it was huge. It was also quite an old house, but his parents were cool with us basically taking over when we were there. We'd make dinner for about 10 people, stay up late listening to music and playing video games, and they never minded. Anyway, one evening, we're all sitting in his room, watching TV. It's dark and the lights are on, but the curtains are open. Suddenly, two different people on opposite sides of the room jump, like they've been startled, and look around. Both of them explain they saw in the reflection in the window somebody walk across the room. On the second floor, just FYI. None of us had moved. It freaked a few of the girls out, and we had to calm them down a bit. Flash to a couple weeks later, and we found a pack of cards in our friend's house that had letters in them. Somebody suggested we could use these as an Ouija board, and figured out if our friend's house was actually haunted. We got a big wooden board, I think it might have been the top of a table once upon a time, arranged the cards in a circle around the edge with an extra 2 homemade yes/no cards. Go to glass and off we went. It started to answer questions, telling us it was a man who used to live in the house and who died there. We asked when he died and just got the answer, long. We asked if he was moving the glass and he said yes. This is where I decided to be dumb, and I asked if he could move anything else other than the glass. Yes. We all paused and listened for the sound of something moving, but nothing happened. We asked if he'd move something. Yes. Nothing happened again. So we moved on and asked some more questions. This was about 10:30 p.m. After a while longer, we said goodbye. I think at least one of us was aware enough of the Ouija board lore to know we had to close the conversation properly. And then a little later, we all went home, a little spooked, but enjoying it nonetheless. I walked home with another friend who lived nearby. As I walked in my front door, my mum called through to me to be careful in my room because a mirror had fallen off the wall earlier, and they weren't sure if they picked up all the bits of glass. When I asked when this had happened, she told me, about 10:30. At the same time, I asked the spirit to move something. Dude, incredible story. I love stories that seem kind of like crazy, but are just not crazy enough to have some sense of reality. Now this one here is not on a scary story Reddit. To me, it just seems a little bit unsettling. This is from r/legal advice, and the poster is u/r Bradbury 1920, and the title, Postit Notes left in my apartment. Now this was looking for legal advice on this, but to me, it has like an eerie aspect. I love this story. On the 15th of April, I found a yellow post-it note in handwriting that wasn't mine on my desk, reminding me of some errands I had to do, but told literally nobody about. While I chalked it up to something I did in my sleep, thinking maybe in my half-awake state I scrawled it so it didn't appear to be my handwriting. I threw it out and thought little of it. On the 19th, I found another post-it note on the back of my desk chair in the same handwriting as the previous note, telling me to make sure I saved my documents. I was freaked out, but there was no other signs of a break-in, so I set up a webcam in my house, aimed it at my desk, and used a security cam app for it to record after detecting movement. On the 28th, I woke up to find another post-it note, this one saying, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you, but it's important we do." I immediately checked the webcam folder on my computer and found nothing from the night before, but my computer's recycling bin had been emptied, which I'm certain I did not do recently, indicating someone had noticed the webcam and deleted my files. They were just saved straight onto the folder on my desk called webcam. Today, on the 1st of May, I found another post-it note. this time on the outside of my door with nothing written on it. And there also appeared to be post-it notes on many other doors in my apartment complex, all blank and varying colors. Do I have any legal recourse here? I have no proof except for the post-its, but those are written by my pen on my post-it notes. So conceivably, could have faked them. Would contacting the police get me into any trouble if they can't determine an outside source for this? I just want to make sure I'm not wasting anyone's time. Should I consult my landlord? They're also living in the complex. Edit. I pulled up a letter I received from my landlord a while back when I moved in, and the handwriting is identical. Could this count as evidence? Now, this story is a little bit eerie, but it's an incredible story. Because go into the comments, they have some theories and stuff. Here's the OP, which means they wrote it. I have had really bad headaches, and I actually already do have a CO detector. Guess I should probably take that out of the box and plug it in. Because people were telling them, hey, yo, check the CO, there might be something wrong. So this is the second thread, over here. Update! Post-it notes left in my apartment. Thank you to everyone who sent suggestions and gave advice on how to proceed. Especially to those who recommended a CO detector. Because when I plugged one in the bathroom, it read at 100 ppm. So they had a poisoning with this, and some of the side effects were memory loss. So the writer here, Redberry, had ended up writing post-it notes of errands and stuff, and because they were like in a daze, it didn't seem like their handwriting because they're like kind of scribbling on it. It's kind of like a wholesome thing. Yeah, someone thought their landlord was stalking them. Turns out they were just being poisoned. I mean, hey, Reddit saved them. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was my first ever video that I actually edited, and I'm pretty proud of it. But if you have any critiques or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Anyways, until next time, I'll see you later, and have a good night, everyone.